So now rouse an utterly pure motivation by thinking as follows. I will establish all sentient beings, infinite in number, as the vast reaches of space, in the state of deathless penetrating soul, the embodiment of all Buddha families. To that end, I will receive this profound empowerment. To that end, I will receive this profound empowerment that will ripen my being, and having received this empowerment, I will diligently apply myself to the path of those two stages, the generation and completion stages. Thus, with a pure motivation, please listen to and receive this empowerment. The profound quintessence of all the paths of the Great Secret, the Vajra vehicle of luminosity, that bring awakening in a single lifetime, the paths suited to those of sharp faculties who have undergone training in the past and have positive karmic dispositions, is entered by receiving empowerment in the mandala of the Guru's wisdom mind, and then practicing or taking into one's experience the two stages of generation and completion. This is taught extensively and is lauded as the supreme of all approaches. The great master Pema Tujing Sal Guru Rinpoche embodies the Vajra speech of all victorious ones. In order to dispel the anguish of the beings of the degenerate age, he taught a multitude of approaches for training in the profound path of accomplishing the Guru. From among all of these, the path we're concerned with here is that of Tsokye Tuktik, the heart essence of the lotus born, a marvelous, powerful, and unique teaching that is the heart essence of the emanation of Drop-in Lotsawa, the great Vidyadhara Jidal Yeshe Doje, also known as Dujum Drudaling Batsal, and that appeared from the treasury of his wisdom luminosity. This profound empowerment, the root of blessings for this mandala, will now be bestowed. I, the Vajra Master, have fulfilled the prerequisite actions. Now you, the disciples, should present a mandal offering in request of the empowerment. So now we've arrived at the empowerment itself. It's quite a brief empowerment, so probably we don't need to give an extensive explanation here. That's not required, but nevertheless, however, today we are not just bestowing the Tsokye Tuktik empowerment, but also this morning while I was doing the preparation, you were all reciting the Vajraguru mantra. So, and a great many number of people have gathered here. So, this being so, if I just launch into the empowerment and proceed through that, don't give any explanation, then, well, probably then the empowerment would be over in an hour. And it's fitting, I think, to actually give some explanation here about empowerment itself in the background, context, and so on. Just as it said, if the history and background of something is not explained and understood, then one will struggle to feel confidence in it. So, likewise, we need to understand what empowerment actually is. What is the nature of empowerment? How does one attain it? How is it given? How is it received? So, how should empowerment be obtained? And this specific empowerment you're receiving today, well, where does it come from? Which master does it come from? What sort of blessings does it contain? How does the person receiving the empowerment need to be? What sort of qualities do they need to have? What sort of qualities does the master giving the empowerment need to have? Having received the empowerment, what benefits are there? What samaya or sacred commitments are involved? And so on and so forth. So I'll talk briefly about these points in the process of giving the empowerment this afternoon. And then tomorrow we will begin the teaching proper, the commentary on the Ngondro, and there won't be so much talk of empowerment from tomorrow onwards. That said, when we reach the explanation of the Guru Yoga in the Ngondro commentary, then there will be an explanation of the four empowerments. We can talk also about the threefold division of empowerment: ground, path, and fruition empowerment. So the empowerment that is being bestowed today is the ground empowerment. And having received this ground empowerment, then when you practice on the path, you practice receiving what we call self-initiation during your personal practice. That's the path empowerment. And then at the end of the path, when you attain or manifest the state of enlightenment, that we can say is the fruitional or result empowerment. Reaching the state of enlightenment itself, that is the result empowerment. So at the end of the 10th bhumi, then the bodhisattvas receive the great empowerment of luminosity and attain enlightenment. That is the result empowerment. So we can make this threefold division of ground, path, and result empowerment. And these will all, when we reach the explanation of the Guru Yoga in the Ngondro commentary in the coming days, then there will be a detailed explanation of the path empowerment, which contains the four empowerments: vase, secret, wisdom, knowledge, and so on. But here, as I said, the empowerment being bestowed is what we call the ground empowerment. So in English we can say capacity or ability, you could say. The fact that all sentient beings possess Buddha nature, that all sentient beings, their very basic nature is Buddha nature, Sugata Garbha. This pervades all beings, it's the very fiber of all beings. In the sutra teachings, in the vehicle of characteristics, Buddha nature is taught and is described in a certain way. It's taught in great detail in treatises such as the Uttara Tantra, the Sublime Continuum, and in other scriptures that pertain to the final turning of the Dharma wheel. And then when it comes to the Vajrayana, more specifically, the three main divisions of the secret mantra Vajrayana, then Buddha nature is explained in even more detail. Luminosity, Buddha nature, primordially present Tathagata Garbha. Those of you who are learned in the scriptures will be very familiar with this. So Buddha nature is taught from Sutra on up, and Sutra and Tantra both, but you should be aware that there is some subtle or some differences between the way it is explained in the Sutra teachings and the Tantra teachings and the different levels of those teachings, whether it's conditioned or unconditioned, composite, non-composite, and so on. So as the omniscient all-knowing Longchenpa said, and following in his footsteps, Mipa Rinpoche, Jigme Rinpa, Lochen Yabse, and so on, they explained Buddha nature is the basic, innate, unconditioned state that pervades all sentient beings, just like a mustard seed is pervaded by oil. It's this innate, intrinsic nature of all beings. It pervades sentient beings just like oil pervades a seed. Likewise, Buddha nature pervades all sentient beings in just the same way. And that is why we have empowerment. Empowerment is a method to manifest this basic nature, this basic Buddha nature, inherent Buddha nature, to bring that to light, to make it apparent. So following one approach, one first of all gathers accumulations and purifies obscurations for one countless eon, and as a result of that, then Buddha nature becomes manifest, we could say. So eventually, that is a sutra approach, gathering the accumulations for 3 countless eons, and then subsequently finally attaining enlightenment. Following the Vajrayana approach, though, one can manifest Buddha nature, realize enlightenment much more quickly, easily, by recognizing one's own inherent Buddha nature within oneself, recognizing that to be the nature of oneself and all others. So, right now we are already Buddha. Essentially, our nature is Buddha. We are enlightened in nature. But we have not yet realized that. So then we have the various approaches for training to come to realize our basic nature, Buddha nature, according to the outer tantras, the Kriya, Upa, and Yoga tantras, there's the approach of recognizing one's Buddha nature, but to some extent, but practicing in the manner of perceiving oneself as a servant and one's deity, the enlightened beings, as like a master or king. So still some division between the Samaya and wisdom beings and so on. So at this point, when practicing the outer tantras, then the practitioner is not yet able to realize fully, completely the indivisibility of primordial purity and equality. So as Jigme Rinpoche said, this primordial purity and equality has not been realized to its full extent yet. At that point, there is still some doubt, you could say, about that fact, and therefore that approach of the outer tantras takes longer, 7 or 16 and so on lifetimes, to reach enlightenment. And then we come to the practice of the inner tantras, where one engenders conviction, real conviction and certainty in the indivisibility of equality, purity and equality, primordial purity and equality, and with that conviction engages in the practice of the 2 stages, generation and completion. And gains, through that practice, gains certainty in the superior 2 truths, the great purity of the relative truth, great equality of the ultimate truth, and through practice then comes ever closer to realizing the natural state and to manifesting the siddhis and manifesting accomplishment. In any case, the root of all this through to the Vajrayana path is the indivisibility of purity and equality, the view of indivisible purity and equality. This is to say that no matter who you are, what sort of being, male, female, high, low, this is the basic nature. This is one's basic nature. Buddha nature pervades all beings equally without discrimination, just like oil pervades a seed. And this is why we are fit, we are capable of receiving empowerment, because our basic disposition is Buddha nature. So that's one thing. And then we have when receiving empowerment, we have the master giving empowerment, and this master needs to be endowed with certain qualities. At least they need to have had a direct vision of the deity, to have perfected the practices of generation and completion, and at the least they must have completed the prerequisite mantra recitation and retreat practice for the specific empowerment being given. So someone like me lacks these qualities and can rely only on aspiration and intention. So someone like me, I really don't actually have the power to confer empowerment. I really don't like giving empowerment also. Then you might say, well, if you're saying that, Rinpoche, why are you giving empowerment anyway? Well, those who were requesting, the lamas and students who were requesting and organizing this teaching were absolutely insistent that I give empowerment, at least 1 or 2 empowerments at the end of this program. There was no way I could get out of it. They were absolutely insistent. So I relented, and here I am giving empowerment. And I thought that since I'm going to have to give empowerment, then it would be very fitting and beneficial to begin the whole program with this Guru Rinpoche empowerment. Nevertheless, even though I've agreed to do it and I'm here giving empowerment, I don't actually I'm not enthusiastic about giving empowerment. Because, like I said, the qualifications that a master should have if they're giving empowerment is to have directly realized the natural state, dharmata, or failing that, to have had a direct vision of the deity. and perfected the practice, and so on. If you think of like a master like Dujun Rinpoche or Dujun Lingpa, Dujun Rinpoche, if we think of Dujun Rinpoche, from a young age he had pure visions. He had pure visions of Guru Rinpoche, direct interactions with Guru Rinpoche at the age of 13. He was granted the treasure revealer name Dodo Lingpa. And from among his treasures, then his various treasures, they can be divided into Guru Yidam Dakini, and there are Guru practices, peaceful and wrathful. Peaceful one is Tsokye Tuktik, and wrathful is Drolo. Both of these practices I've completed in retreat, completed the requisite mantra recitations and so on. And then as for the Yidam practices of Dujun Rinpoche, then there are the two Vajrakalaya revelations. And then as for the Dakini, Khandro Tuktik, Singamukha, Gurukuli, and so on, with their outer inner secret aspects. So, treasure revelations of Guru, Yidam, and Dakini. These are treasure revelations of His Holiness Dujun Rinpoche Jigye Doje himself. And many of you here, maybe most of you here, will be very familiar with the treasure teachings of Dujun Rinpoche, but maybe some of the lay practitioners and students are not. So for their benefit, I've mentioned these, just in brief list of them. So from among the three routes, we have the Guru right, peaceful Guru and wrathful Guru. And from among these two today, the empowerment is that of the peaceful Guru Tsokye Tuktik, as revealed by Kyabje Dujun Rinpoche. So the master giving this empowerment should have completed the retreat practice and mantra recitation for this practice, which, as I said before, I have done. On top of that, the master should have attained certainty or confidence in the practice of the two stages related to that practice. But these days, in this degenerate age, it's difficult to find someone with complete confidence, we could say, or you could say dignity or mastery of those the two phases. Nevertheless, the transmission and lineage is extremely blessed. The lineage of Dujun Lingpa, Chakthang Dujun Lingpa, and Dujun Rinpoche. It is rich with blessings, and as we always praying, please bestow your blessings, transfer your wisdom realization to me. We make those supplications and prayers. We make those prayers, recite those lines. There are lines in the Dujum liturgies and so on that say exactly that, and it's not for no reason. It's because there are actually blessings that can be transferred, that can be received from this process lineage, this lineage of Dujun Lingpa and Dujun Rinpoche, who was Guru Rinpoche himself, Guru Rinpoche in the flesh. So to come into contact with these teachings and receive them is something of extraordinary good fortune. Those of us who were able to meet Dujun Rinpoche in the flesh, to meet him in the flesh in his residence, see him in the person, receive teachings directly from him. Myself and many of the rest of you here, the elder practitioners, had that extraordinary opportunity to meet Dujun Rinpoche in the person. There are also those here who are disciples of the previous Degye Rinpoche, of the previous Seta Rinpoche, Agut Seong Rinpoche, and I think Rinpoche also mentioned Kyabje Dungse Rinpoche before. So the students of Humla, Mugum, Kamarong, these Himalayan regions. Probably the majority of students here are from those regions, but I know there are also others who've come from elsewhere, Bhutan, other Himalayan areas, India and so on. who are connected in other ways to Kyabje Rinpoche, Kyabje Dujun Rinpoche, and his enlightened body, speech, and mind, and who was either direct or indirect students of Kyabje Rinpoche and Dongsen Chöngyalpa Rinpoche, and have faith, real faith and devotion in these two masters and their lineage. So with that faith, that devotion, and confidence in those masters and their lineage, then it is possible, it will be possible for us to, through the strength of our faith and pure perception, receive their blessings through this empowerment. So cultivate faith, cultivate pure perception. This is a gateway to receiving the blessings. And people from the Himalayan areas, or we say the border areas, they really do have very stable, steady faith, deep-rooted faith. This is a wonderful thing, a wonderful quality that most of you people do possess. So this is very precious. And a gateway to the blessings when receiving empowerment. When receiving empowerment, there are 2 causes and 4 conditions that make receiving empowerment possible. First of all is the associated cause. This is the fact that we have Buddha nature, that all sentient beings, whether you're a bug or a bird or a bee or whoever you are, whatever form you're in, good, bad, high or low, no matter what state you've been born in, you have Buddha nature. This is the case for all sentient beings without discrimination, without differentiation. All sentient beings have Buddha nature. So, for instance, when you reach the first Bodhisattva Bhumi, all the way up and then proceed to the 10th Bhumi, you are progressing in terms of your elimination of discards and realization of the natural state. But it's not the case that Buddha nature is improving or changing. Buddha nature never improves or changes from the state of sentient being to Buddha. All that changes is the degree to which you've realized that, the degree to which you've removed the obscurations covering Buddha nature. For instance, it's like a seed, right? A seed has the potential to sprout and turn into a plant, right? To grow into a plant. But if that sprout is not combined with other conditions, like being planted in fertile soil, watered, receiving the warmth of the sun, then the seed, even though it has that potential, it's not going to sprout, right? So it's like that. Our Buddha nature, this associated cause of Buddha nature, our innate Buddha nature is like that. Then we have the cooperative course, which is the root guru, the master bestowing empowerment. So not a teacher like me, not a master like me, but a genuine qualified master who has realized the true nature, had a direct vision of the deity, gained mastery of the 2 stages of generation and completion. This sort of adept master is the cooperative cause for receiving empowerment. So in terms of me, I have completed the practice, the requisite retreat and mantra recitation for this practice carefully, thoroughly and fully, and I do have faith, I do have stable, sincere faith in my root gurus, in Dongsen Chöngyalpa Rinpoche, Dujun Rinpoche, and so on. And they embrace me with great love and kindness. However, I do not have these higher qualities that I mentioned that a master bestowing empowerment should have. Nevertheless, having performed this practice and maintaining faith and devotion in my gurus, then perhaps I've received their blessings and am endowed with their blessings, the kindness of their blessings to some extent. So then in terms of the different types of empowerment, we have the vase empowerment, which empowers the body, and then the secret empowerment, which is empowerment of the male and female Buddha in union. And then we have the wisdom knowledge empowerment, and then the fourth precious word empowerment, which is bestowed by means of a crystal, a mirror, and so on. So these various empowerments, which are bestowed by means of ritual substances, these are also a vital condition for receiving empowerment. They're placed at the respective places like crown, the throat, the heart, and so on. Some substances need to be eaten, some need to be smeared on a certain place of the body. So these empowerment substances are also part of the cooperative cause. So we have the associated cause, which is Buddha nature, right? Buddha nature present within oneself. And as I said in the sutra teachings, the vehicle of characteristics, Buddha nature is taught. It's taught and established by means of three lines of logic. Buddha nature is established or proved. But furthermore, the Vajrayana teachings go further than this in explaining Buddha nature by means of the channels, winds, and essences, which are the three kayas, Dhammakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nimanakaya. And these are present, inherently present within all beings, and especially within human beings who are endowed with, we say, the six physical elements of earth, water, fire, wind, space, and consciousness. And having these six elements, and also the course, channels, winds, and elements, give us as human beings an extraordinary opportunity, and it's a very special, unique opportunity to practice in the Vajrayana context. So we are all endowed with the great fortune of having a body of the six elements, with these course, channels, winds, and essences. So with this basic ground, so to speak, on possessing this Buddha nature, this basic ground, the Guru then performs the empowerment, dispels the obstructors, establishes the boundary, brings down a shower of blessings and bestows empowerment and so on. Then it's possible for us to receive empowerment. And like I said, if your empowerment is being bestowed by a genuinely qualified guru, someone like Kyabji Jujun Rinpoche, then as you will read in his life stories and the life stories of other such masters, extraordinary signs of the descended blessings would occur when they gave blessings. Things like the nectar on the shrine bubbling over, people actually witnessing deities descending and so on. So again, to reiterate, the first of the two causes necessary for receiving empowerment is the associated cause. This is the fact that we have Buddha nature, and especially the fact that we are endowed with have a body endowed with the six elements, and endowed with the course, channels, winds, and essences. I know I'm aware that I'm repeating points again and again. For some of you, those who are more learned, this might be boring or a bit irritating, but I am repeating these points intentionally for those who are not so familiar with the material. As it said, important points should be emphasized and repeated. So that's why I'm repeating myself here. Otherwise, I could just speak without repeating anything and just... Like if you think of Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, when he was taught, it was just like an unbroken river. Almost sounds like he's just reading a text, just reading something aloud. But actually, he's teaching. He would be giving a commentary from his own mind. But it's so perfect and seamless. It was just like written, edited text. Not a single unnecessary syllable, not a single repetition, nothing missed out. That's how it is with teachers like Kyabji Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche. But then you have teachers like myself who who repeat things, who go in circles, who go on tangents, and so on. But there are also reasons for doing this, for repeating. This is not actually the way to the best way to teach the scriptures. It is not the sort of the exemplary way for scholars to teach, but nevertheless, it can be beneficial in certain contexts to teach with a lot of repetition in this way. So to repeat once more, the associated cause. This is the presence of Buddha nature. And then we have the cooperative cause, the empowerment substances, and so on. So those are the two causes. Now we come to the four conditions: the causal condition, dominant condition, objective condition, immediate condition. So the dominant condition is a qualified teacher, which I already talked about a bit earlier. Qualified teacher in this sense refers especially to a teacher who has pure untainted samaya. This is the most important thing in Vajrayana, pure untainted samaya. If someone has this is actually the greatest kind of accomplishment, to have pure untainted samaya, to be uncorrupted by any samaya transgressions, which means to have never wavered in one's face, to have never gone in discord with the guru, never upset or disturbed any of one's gurus, and so on, to have upheld one's sacred commitments or samaya. A teacher with such pure untainted samaya is a qualified teacher. This is the dominant condition. Then we have the causal condition. Causal condition refers to the student being qualified because of the fact that they have Buddha nature. So these points that I'm mentioning, these two causes and four conditions, they are not just random points that I've pulled out of the hat. They are actually rooted in the tantric scriptures. In, for instance, Mipham Rinpoche's overview of the Guyogaba Tantra, Luminous Essence, in the Key to the Treasury by Dodrup Chen, and so on. You can find explanations of these very points in the Guyogaba Tantra and so on. So again, the dominant condition is a qualified teacher. Causal condition is the qualified student, qualified by virtue of having Buddha nature and so on. And then you have the objective condition. And the immediate condition. Immediate condition refers to the various phases of empowerment, like vase empowerment, secret empowerment, so being given one after the other. So rather, this refers to the objective condition. These days, in places like America and so on, people are giving empowerment. Empowerment supposedly over live streamed to huge numbers of people. But this actually is not possible. It is literally not possible to give empowerment live stream without direct contact between student and teacher, because these two causes and four conditions cannot be complete if the student and the teacher are not together. For instance, a seed cannot grow if it does not come into contact with earth, water, the warmth of the sun, and so on. It's just not possible. Likewise, this notion of receiving empowerment online or even teachings online, it is just not possible. For instance, in the past years when I taught the words of my perfect teacher, the teachings were live streamed, and there were apparently a few thousand people listening to the teachings online. But who knows how they were listening? Maybe they were listening just sitting there in their underpants with their legs stretched out with no real respect. Maybe they were listening just while going about their daily business, half distracted. Who knows if they were listening with faith and respect? the conditions are not there for them to actually receive the teachings. So I made this clear before that yes, you can listen to a teaching online, but that is not the same as receiving a teaching, receiving a transmission. For instance, when receiving empowerment, you must actually receive the empowerment substances in order to attain the empowerment. The vase must be placed on your crown, the nectar must be drunk, and so on and so forth. How can you do that online? It's not possible. Of course, there are some exceptions. You can have a mind-to-mind transmission, as happens with masters like Garab Doje and Manjushri Mitra and so on. But where do you find masters like that? They are as rare as the blue moon. So someone who has realization and experience like Guru Rinpoche, Garab Doje, Shiri Singh and so on, those who can receive the wisdom transmission and sign transmission, then sure, it's mind-to-mind transmission without reliance on physical substances can happen. But if you're not at that level, then one needs to give empowerment with all of these two causes and 4 conditions, and with all of these points complete. Otherwise, empowerment cannot be given and it cannot be received. At least from this is my position, my understanding. So others might have a different perspective, but from my side, I'm very clear about this. Empowerment and transmission cannot be given or received online. Of course, and like I said, I'm not saying that there's no possible benefit from listening to teachings online. There can be benefit, but this is not the same as receiving a teaching. You don't receive the transmission of a teaching through listening to it online. So, anyway, I could talk about this in much more detail, but for instance, if receiving the bhikshu monastic vow, then you need many causes and conditions need to come together. You need a preceptor, major preceptor, minor preceptor, 4 other lopans and so on. There are specific names for the various different names and roles, various objects and substances that need to be present. So many things need to come together just for the transmission of a monastic vow, and so on and so forth. With all of the vows and transmissions of vows from the monastic level on up. So it's all causes and conditions. For something to happen, all the necessary causes and conditions need to come together. Empowerment is no different. So we're talking about the objective condition just now. Now we have the immediate condition. What is that? So this refers to the various phases of empowerment being given one after the other in the correct order. So, for instance, the vase empowerment. So, before that, first of all, the obstructors being dispelled, then the protection circle being established, then the shower of blessings descending, and then the empowerments being given one by one, the vase empowerment, secret empowerment, and so on. Each previous phase is the condition for the following phase. You cannot skip a phase. You cannot skip a phase. So this is why the empowerment must be given carefully and properly in order. So this comprises the immediate condition. Like we also have the propelling empowerment, the authorizing empowerment, and these various other types of empowerment. We find a mention of these in the scriptures. These are likewise speak to the immediate condition, the different phases and stages of giving empowerment. So these all pertain to the immediate condition. Now we've covered the 4 conditions and the 2 causes, which are all necessary for the giving and receiving empowerment. So now I will speak briefly about Kyabje Dujun Rinpoche's life story, because the empowerment I'm giving and the teachings I'll be given in the coming days are the teachings of Kyabje Dujun Rinpoche himself. They come from him. He is the treasure revealer of the Tsokye Tuktik empowerment. His treasure revealer name was Dordo Lingpa. He was an emanation of Drobin Kyechung Lotsawa. There are many prophetic prophecies. There are many scriptures that prophesied his coming, but I won't quote those now for lack of time. But in any case, Kyabje Dujun Rinpoche was the direct emanation of Drobin Kyechung Lotsawa, this great master, disciple of Guru Rinpoche, who was a perfectly accomplished master with great miraculous powers. Kyabje Dujun Rinpoche was his incarnation. And also the incarnation of Trapton Dujun Lingpa. Direct incarnation of Trapton Dujun Lingpa, who was recognized directly by direct incarnation of Trapton Dujun Lingpa, without any sort of break, you could say, who reconnected with his previous incarnation's disciples directly, without any doubt. It was an undisputed incarnation of Dujun Lingpa. Before Dujun Lingpa passed away, he told his disciples, you guys go to Pema Kö, you head off to Pema Kö now, and I will see you there later. And then he passed away, and later he took rebirth in Pema Kö and reunited with his disciples, with Dujun Lingpa's disciples there. From among Dujun Lingpa's disciples, one of them was Degye Rinpoche, and it's important to mention Degye Rinpoche and talk a bit about him, because so many of you here are disciples of Degye Rinpoche, connected to Degye Rinpoche. So, very briefly, Degye Rinpoche was one of the main disciples. The first Degye Rinpoche was one of the main disciples of Trapton Dujun Lingpa. At one point, he had a prophetic dream, that Dujun Lingpa then showed that he should head to Ngari. There, he would benefit many sentient beings, and his activities would spread far and wide. And indeed, exactly that happened. Rinpoche quoted some lines of prophecy from the scriptures that prophesied Degye Rinpoche, saying he is an incarnation of Vajrapani and so on. The prophecies were fulfilled perfectly by Degye Rinpoche and his activity. He went to Ngari as instructed by Dujun Lingpa, and also surrounding areas. His activities spread far and wide. And then back to Dujun Rinpoche. After Dujun Lingpa passed away, his reincarnation was born in Pema Kö. That was Dujun Rinpoche, Jiraya Shedoje. An undisputed reincarnation. Degye Rinpoche went to see the reincarnation, reunited with him, and then returned to Mount Kailash with some of his close disciples, including some close non-disciples. Rinpoche mentioned a few by name. You can read Degye Rinpoche's life story, and for more detail, I just want to just go over it briefly and quickly here. So when Degye Rinpoche went to Pema Kö, there was a field of corn, and all the sheaves of corn were waving in the wind. And there was a small child, 3 or 4, with long hair. And one of Degye Rinpoche's nuns, the young child said to one of Degye Rinpoche's nuns in Golok language, which is his Dudjul Rinpoche's language, completely different dialect from the Pimlico language. He spoke to the nun in the Golok language, and which was an extraordinary thing. It's like a child speaking a language that they haven't been taught in a foreign land. So this young child, who was Dudjul Rinpoche, spoke in the Golok language to this nun and said, just basically continued the conversation with her from his past life. And said, how are you practicing? Are you still practicing those instructions on Shamatha I taught you? How are things going? What have you been doing? It was just like a perfect continuation of that being of Dudjul Rinpoche. And this Annie, I think her name was Annie Changchub, she was utterly overwhelmed with amazement and devotion and awe. In short, he was an extraordinary, unequaled chugu, unequaled incarnation. Khenpo Jimmy Phuntsok Rinpoche, the late Jimmy Phuntsok Rinpoche, who was one of the Dharma friends of Khenpo Chögye Rinpoche and Khenpo Daze Rinpoche also, would speak of Dudjul Rinpoche. His extraordinary, just in short, his extraordinary qualities, his peerless qualities. So I can't follow all the details here, but basically many stories of Kyabje Dudjul Rinpoche's extraordinary recollection, even at the age of 3 or 4. He had such precise, detailed recollection of places and people from his past life and so on. Kind of recollection that you wouldn't expect from an adult. In short, he was an undisputed reincarnation, an extraordinary master. So beings like this, like Kyabje Dudjul Rinpoche, we could also say like Gyalwar Rinpoche, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, are extraordinarily sublime beings. And this is one of the extraordinary, amazing things about the Tibetan, we could say the Tugu system. They are sort of the greatest results or outstanding figures of from among Tugus, Tibetan Tugus. Someone like Kyabje Dudjul Rinpoche is one of the most outstanding incarnations in Tugus. You could not find someone like him, from among, say, 1 million people, the population of a whole country. In short, he was Guru Rinpoche incarnate, Guru Rinpoche in the flesh, without a doubt. These days there is talk about the Tugu system, whether it is a good thing or bad thing, and so on. And but in any case, if out of 10 people or 10 chugus, one really excellent chugu emerges, well, that's something good, right? That's something special and good. And Kyabje Jujun Rinpoche was one such example, the direct incarnation of Jujun Lingpa. Born in Pembaku, he then traveled to places like... Okay, so he was born, as I said before, in Pembaku, and his father was... She mentioned the name of his father and his mother. It's good to know these details. His father, Nobo Tenzin, his mother, Namdrol Droma. He was born in the year 1904, amidst wonderful science, with rainbows appearing in the sky, lotuses blooming suddenly, and so on. There's a lot more we could say here about the qualities of the father and the mother, and so on. But in any case, from birth, he was very special, outstanding. He was accompanied by Tsokye and the protectors and so on, received direct visions and transmissions from them. At the age of 7, at the age of 13, he had direct visions of Guru Rinpoche. At the age of 13, he was given the name Drodha Lingpa by Guru Rinpoche. This is one of the names of the treasure revealer name of Jujun Rinpoche, Ugyen Drodha Lingpa. So the name given to him directly by Guru Rinpoche, Ugyen Drodha Lingpa. Like in the supplication we say to Jujun Lingpa, in the past you were reason. There's a short prayer to Jujun Rinpoche, basically, which says that he is the regent, the representative of Guru Rinpoche. He's endowed with the 4 fearlessnesses and the other enlightened qualities. He is the true and real representative of Guru Rinpoche. As I said, he had direct visions of Guru Rinpoche, was empowered, authorized by Guru Rinpoche as to be his regent. Not in like a false or superficial way, but directly, you could say, recognized or given this mandate directly by Guru Rinpoche. He received all of the transmissions and empowerments and so on of his previous incarnation, Jujun Lingpa, from Gyurme Ngedon Wampo, who was one of his main gurus. He was also a disciple of Kongtrul and Khyentse and some other masters Rinpoche mentioned. From Gyurme Ngedon Wampo, one of his main teachers, he received all of the empowerments, transmissions of Jujun Lingpa's teachings, treasure teachings. Gyurme Ngedon Wampo was a direct disciple of Jujun Lingpa himself. He also received, Jujun Rinpoche also received the 5 treasuries, the treasury of knowledge, the treasury of precious dharmas, the treasury of mantras, and so on. These 5 treasuries compiled by Kongtrul, he received from the same teacher, I think Rinpoche said. As for Kyabje Dujun Rinpoche's own treasure teachings, as I mentioned before, he revealed treasure teachings pertaining to the Guru, peaceful and wrathful both. The peaceful is Tsokye Tuktik, the wrathful is Dode Drolo, very renowned treasure cycle. So he revealed these treasure teachings of Guru Rinpoche. He then practiced them and accomplished them himself. Khyentse Daso Rinpoche used to say, these days there are lots of tertons, treasure revealers, all sorts of treasure revealers. Some are real treasure revealers and just inconceivable and inconceivably precious, and others are maybe not so authentic or quite minor. Maybe they just reveal one small cycle, or but when it comes to Kyabje Dujun Rinpoche, he said he is the real deal, so to speak. He revealed treasure teachings of Guru Yidam Dakini, of major and minor cycles, everything from beginning to end in full. Kyabje Dujun Rinpoche revealed and accomplished. So Khyentse Daso Rinpoche would say, so as Khyentse Daso Rinpoche would explain, well, when a treasure revealer first reveals the teaching, then they need to keep it secret. Like when Pemösa Tongat Lingpa, Khyentse Wangpo revealed their treasure teaching, then for 10 or 15 years they kept it completely secret, practiced it themselves in secrecy, and investigated how is this teaching, what kind of signs of accomplishments are arising from it. And only then would they decide, if they decided, they would decide to propagate those teachings and make them public. So these teachings aren't like human compositions and so on. So this is how it goes with treasure revelations. The treasure revealer first of all reveals the treasure, keeps it secret. For a period they practice it themselves in secrecy, and if they manifest the signs of accomplishment in that practice, then they transcribe the teaching and propagate it. Only then do they transcribe and propagate it. Khandro Tutit, Tsokye Tuktik, all of these were revealed and practiced in this way by Dujun Rinpoche. He revealed them, kept them secret, practiced them himself, accomplished them completely, and only then, after testing them, we could say, tasting them in full, like cooking a meal fully and tasting it, only then did he share them. So you can read about this in Dujun Rinpoche's life story, how he revealed these treasures, how he practiced them, the kind of accomplishment and blessings that he manifested through these practices. So these are some of the treasure teachings of Dujun Rinpoche. So when he was 13, he revealed his first treasure. He revealed Guru Rinpoche, met Guru Rinpoche in person, was handed a list, you could say, yellow parchment, treasure parchment that detailed were the treasures that he was destined to reveal, where they were hidden, how and when they should be revealed, and so on. And so his life as a treasure revealer continued. Then if we think further about Kyabje Dujun Rinpoche's activities, in 1959, when Tibet was occupied and all the Tibetans fled. Most people fled, if they were able to flee, they fled with nothing more than the clothes on their back and a bowl in their pocket. Kyabje Rinpoche had the foresight to to preserve complete collections of the Karma and Terma teachings. And then, once he arrived in exile, he took such incredible care of these, making sure that copies were made. But during the process of copying, he actually sort of supervised each and every page being copied, so that nothing would be lost, so that they would be preserved for the future. He made copies of those texts, ensuring that they were preserved and propagated. And then he gave the empowerments and transmissions of Rinchen Terza, Karma, Terma, these fundamental, indispensable Nyingma teachings, and did all of this at a time of such upheaval, when the Tibetans were living in exile, in poverty, with no infrastructure, no support. Even if you think like something really specific like Mendruk, Amrita medicine, the Mendruk made by Dujun Rinpoche and consecrated by Dujun Rinpoche, but there are still some of that Mendruk around, and it is the most powerful, fragrant, perfect Mendruk. For instance, so the activities and deeds of this great master, Kyabje Dujun Rinpoche, cannot be compared to the activities of an ordinary person. He was a sublime being in every possible way. Rinpoche is quoting some lines of scripture. I think some lines of prophecy describing Dujun Rinpoche's activity from Ujin Dechen Rinpoche's treasure prophecy. So this is to say Dujun Rinpoche's appearance and activities were prophesied by Guru Rinpoche. So how lucky are we, how fortunate are we? It's said in this prophetic scripture, those who encounter Dujun Rinpoche, this incarnation Dujun Rinpoche, and form a connection with him, are guaranteed rebirth in the copper-colored mountain, Guru Rinpoche's Pure Land. So how lucky are we, many of us who had the chance to meet Dujun Rinpoche in person. For me, I was very young when I met him, but still I got to meet him in person, receive transmissions, instructions, empowerments from him, practice a little bit in his presence. And also from Kyabje Dungse Chini Nobu Rinpoche, who I received many instructions and empowerments from, and who gave me instructions and commands: do this practice and stay on retreat, do this, Drolo and Khandro Tuktik, and so on. So Drolo Rinpoche, Chinobu Rinpoche instructed me to practice. I also intended to practice, so I did that and practiced it in retreat, and was able to kind of report back to Rinpoche. And Rinpoche told me, commanded me to teach and share all the teachings that he'd given me, to share those with others. And if I think about it, I think I have shared all the teachings I received from Dungse Chini Nobu Rinpoche, like Neruk Rangjung, these Dzogchen Tantras of Dujun Lingpa. These Dzogchen teachings I have shared with others. I've passed them on and taught them. Maybe it's presumptuous of me to say that, but to have done that. But I have done that as Rinpoche commanded me to do. And one very nice thing to mention right now is this. Pimesa Dongat Lingpa spoke of things naturally coming together, you could say. when things naturally come together, that is the most auspicious, this is saying. And the teachings that we're giving now, the timing, so the 8th of this month happens to be the Parinirvana anniversary of Tracton Dujun Lingpa. Actually, initially we planned to hold these teachings in March, right? In 2 months later. There were various reasons we had to move them forward, and this was pretty much the only other possibility. So without any kind of thought of arranging the teachings to coincide with auspicious anniversaries and so on, we fixed the dates. And having fixed the dates, then just recently I looked at the calendar and saw that Tracton Dujun Lingpa's anniversary is the 8th of this month, which I think is an extraordinary auspicious circumstance and a wonderfully good sign, and shows that that I myself have a good karmic connection with his teachings, with Dujun Lingpa's teachings, and that all of you here too do as well, that generally as a group we have some karmic connection and positive connection. We must have, otherwise how could it all happen and come together like this? So there are some anniversaries that I know of by heart, like Dongse Chinenobu Rinpoche's and so on. But Tracton Dujun Lingpa, to be honest, I didn't have it in mind. I didn't remember when it was. But then it just turns out that I think Rinpoche is saying it's today, but I've lost track of the days myself. Sorry. But in any case, it's a very auspicious coincidence. So, like I said, as probably most of you probably know, the teachings were originally arranged to be in March, but then many groups of people and students requested, for various reasons, that the teachings be moved earlier, and there were different preferences about which dates the teaching would be moved to. Eventually we decided on these dates, and it just so happened that it coincides with Tracton Dujun Lingpa's Parinirvana anniversary. I'm just looking at the calendar. I think it's today. So today, this day, first day of the program, the day on which we're giving this empowerment. The teachings of Buddha. The teachings of the Buddha, what are they? They are not comprised of temples or pujas, but scripture and realization, which is to say, teaching and studying. Teaching, studying and practicing, and that is what we are doing here, teaching and studying, teaching and receiving the teachings. A bit like plugging your phone in to charge. So how much power the battery can take depends on its capacity, right? But this is what's going on. And also how much power, how much voltage there is also a factor, right? So whether you guys have battery capacity or not, that depends on you, and whether there is voltage or not depends on me. Like in the past, in Nepal, for years we had this load shedding thing, this electricity schedule, where you'd only have like an hour of electricity, weak electricity. But anyway, if the voltage is sufficient and your battery capacity is sufficient, then some charging can take place. So this is what's happening with teaching and receiving teachings. This is to say that on this anniversary of Chögyam Döjun Rinpoche's Parinirvana, to honor that, then we are honoring that in the best possible way by engaging in say, study and in exposition and study, in receiving the teachings. This is the best supreme way of fulfilling the Guru's visions and wishes, by actually engaging in the teachings. As for Kyabje Döjun Rinpoche's disciples, well, he had just literally countless disciples, thousands and thousands. Like Khenpo Jigme Phunso Rinpoche, the late Khenpo Jigme Rinpoche, he had literally tens of thousands of disciples. He would say that in the past, when Döjun Rinpoche went to Kongpo, so when preparing to go to Kongpo the following day, sorry, I didn't quite catch that story. And Khenpo Achu Rinpoche, he received the Terzu and so on directly from Döjun Rinpoche, and practiced the Futi Pung, one of his Vajrakalai termas of Döjun Rinpoche, and he manifested the rainbow body. This just shows how profound and blessed Döjun Rinpoche's teachings are, and what kind of disciples he had. I think the previous story Rinpoche was saying Khenpo Jigme Phunso Rinpoche missed an opportunity to meet and receive certain teachings from Döjun Rinpoche in Kongpo, and he said, if I had the chance to see Döjun Rinpoche in the flesh and receive teachings from him, then I would have attained the rainbow body. I think that was the previous story. So, by hearing this brief overview of Döjun Rinpoche's life story and a few anecdotes and accounts, then this should inspire you, fill you with faith and confidence. That is the function, the point of thinking about and talking about the life stories of these masters, to inspire us with faith and confidence, and to remind us to make us aware of how fortunate we are, how lucky we are to have encountered these teachings and to be here right now with this opportunity to receive them. So today we are receiving this ripening empowerment of Tsokye Tuktik, which is a treasure teaching of Döjun Rinpa. It said those like King Indra Buddhi who receive again realization and liberation at the same time. There are very few people like that, great realized masters who gain realization the moment they receive empowerment or transmission, and then perfect that realization right there and then, so that they attain liberation, enlightenment on that very seat. Rinpoche is quoting some lines of scripture describing the natural state, saying it is indescribable, ineffable, the co-emergent state, self-arisen wisdom is indescribable, ineffable, ungraspable. So this is to say that it cannot be described or explained by ordinary language and concept, by ordinary beings. You cannot find it anywhere. With words, with concepts, no matter where you search for it, you cannot find it. But when the Guru points it out to you, referring specifically to the fourth empowerment, the precious word empowerment, points out to you, introduces you to Rigpa, to that innate reality, then it can be recognized. You can recognize the true nature, the nature of your mind, a bit like connecting a battery with power and the charge being received. She's quoting more lines of scripture that basically say, the nature of mind itself is Buddha, do not search for Buddha elsewhere. This is the nature of mind, but how to recognize this, how to realize this? Well, by receiving empowerment, by coming to recognize this through empowerment. These various lines of scripture that are so rich in meaning and actually could be explained with a whole volume of teaching, basically are saying that the natural state, self-arisen wisdom, the innate nature, it can only be recognized through the Guru's skillful means, by receiving introduction or transmission from the Guru. Only then is it realized. That is how it is to be realized. So this is what empowerment is. This is the nature of empowerment. And Kyabje Jujun Rinpoche, he passed away in France, having arrived at the level of the exhaustion of all phenomena. So a year before Kyabje Jujun Rinpoche passed away, I missed the name, but Master went to see Jujun Rinpoche in France, and it was clear that Kyabje Jujun Rinpoche had reached that final level, manifested that final level of the exhaustion of all dharmas, like the great Dzogchen Master Migyur Namgyal Dorje. And this is actually quite a well-known story, but maybe some of you haven't heard it. So Kyabje Jujun Rinpoche passed away, and his Sangyum. So one time he passed away, and he passed away, but then his consort, Sangyum, shook him by the hand, shook his body, and said, "No, you can't leave, your work has not yet done." And so he returned, just like someone waking up from sleep. Actually, he had passed away, but then he re-entered his body, just like someone waking from sleep. He was arising from the samadhi, and then he continued to live for exactly 1 more year, and then he did pass away. And in Dongse Chin Nobu Rinpoche's Namtar, you can read about how he passed away without any illness or signs of illness or anything. It shows that, well, of course, that is what we'd expect from someone like Kyabje Jujun Rinpoche. He had perfect mastery over his lifespan. And there's also accounts of extraordinary signs occurring during his parinirvana, rainbows and visions and so on, and blessed substances appearing from his body and so on. Of course. So that was about Kyabje Jujun Rinpoche's enlightened life. So now we'll proceed with the empowerment, and as I do this, please cultivate faith, pure perception, heartfelt devotion, and receive the empowerment with that way. So to begin with, please offer a mandala in request of the empowerment.